Newsfirst, Newsline.
Failing to plan is planning to fail. This is an age-old saying, and today on our show we've got a person who says that he has a plan. And by the end of the show, we will know for sure if he does. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Richard de Zoysa. He is the convener of the People's Convention for Good Governance and also our guest on Newsline tonight. A very good evening, Mr. de Zoysa, and welcome to the show.
Good evening. Great to be here.
Mr. de Zoysa, now good governance, it's almost become a taboo word because it's not been used properly many times. It's actually been misused many times. There have been governments, countless governments, that have promised good governance, come into power and done the exact opposite. So now, at a time like this, you go among the people and say, good governance, it's like, what nonsense? That's the usual reaction that you would expect from a person when they have seen and heard the word good governance misused so much. So you're the convener of the People's Convention for Good Governance. What's different this time?
Well, good governance cannot be described in one sentence. You can't define it in a sentence. It has so many facets to it that makes governance tolerable to people. So we are trying to bring out the salient points which benefit the people. This is a people's convention and it is for the people with no other motives politically or otherwise, not inspired by anything else other than three people getting together and deciding to do something good for the country.
Well, Mr. de Zoysa, I'm going to take your word on you saying that the People's Convention for Good Governance is not politically motivated. But then this begs the question. Now, we want good governance in this country. Politics is the art of good governance. That's the textbook definition of the word politics. So if you have no political intentions, pray tell, how do you propose you bring about this change or bring about this shift towards good governance without, getting involved in politics?
I agree with you totally. You have to be in power to effect extreme change. We need extreme change, not just
slight change.
Not slight changes. We need to really turn the page. So what we are trying to do is, as the tagline of this convention clearly says, it's for the rulers of today and the leaders of tomorrow. So we will show them tomorrow. I have invited school children. They are the future of this country. So you need a bit of time to effect change.
Yes.
Right. So maybe we have another 2 years to bring in a new set of leaders, right, before a general election or a presidential election. So I am of the firm belief that more than 90% of those who are incumbent in parliament has to go. They have no right to be there because the constitution very clearly allowed them to bring in a man who did not win a seat, who was maybe the head of the party, and he was brought into power through a crack in the constitution. And it was brought about by a set of people who were rejected by these protesters. These Aragalis or whatever you may call them actually changed the entire situation of the country, where they inspired everyone, I think the majority of the country, to change and realize what type of a bad governance they were subjected to. Right along the years, from 48 to 2023 or 2022. So in my convention tomorrow, we are going to have a section called the Good, the Bad and the Ugly, which is from 1948 to 2023. There has been a few traces of good, but bad and ugly really dominated that period. So, we are trying to get four forums together, an economic forum, an education forum, education reforms. Then we are having a production and services forum. And one of the most important things is the ethnicity. That's something that we have to address. So, there are moderators and they have been given strict instructions that they have to concentrate, given the time constraints. They have to concentrate on how we got to this debacle, where we are now, and how are we going to overcome it. That's all. For the people, now there are certain government MPs and ministers who have called me and said that they are coming.
Okay.
So, it's a lesson for them also, right? Because some of them do not follow what we are trying to prescribe. Let's say. So, I would say the Ministry of Education is a pivotal ministry which has to act independently from this, like an independent commission. And this was actually inspired by 3 initiatives which I brought up soon after President Gotabaya Rajapaksa he came into power. I had a press briefing and introduced 3 national initiatives which has to be done with the blessings of the government, because you need the machinery of the government to succeed in anything. You don't have the infrastructure nor the mechanism to implement things.
Or the authority.
Or the authority. Yeah, that's right. So, the 3 initiatives, Chalani, is one is ethics. Children of 2 years and till about 7 years have to be taught ethics. Respect each other, the races, how they have to treat their parents, a whole myriad of ethical beliefs and ethics actually can be put together by the 3 religions, 3 main religions. They can sit together and do a curriculum so that these children will be unified. Secondly, the medium of instruction should drift towards, let's say, 2 or 3 years, should go into to an English medium of instruction, because that is a universal language, commercial language of the world and the IT language of the world. Other than that, this was a thing that it was a heritage from the British, and there was a time. Now, if you go to any remote area in this country and give a 90-year-old a newspaper to read, an English newspaper, he will read it. He will read it. So, because they were taught in English. So, there were quite a few mistakes made by our leaders. They were suppressed so that it was easier for them to rule. But times have changed now. Times have changed, and the youth now won't tolerate any advice by the old generations, because they think for themselves. So, what I want to do with my colleagues who are on this exercise, and the more it's a national initiative more than anything else. We have to inspire them to lead, to be not corrupt, to be benevolent, to do something for your country and not expect something in return. They have to be educated. There should be at least 40% of women coming into parliament. There has to be that equal number as professionals. There have to be think tanks for each ministry, which dictates the route that we have to take. If we are going to prosper, we have to think 10-15 years ahead.
So, Mr. Zoysa, when you speak about these matters, of course, that affect good governance, these matters have been spoken of for a long time. So, what do you propose we do differently than just sit and talk about it?
Yeah, we had to get people. We had to get a new. We had to get our benches filled. We had to think of replacements.
Think of replacements for the leaders.
For the leaders. There has to be emerging leaders. And these leaders, I would say, have to be chosen by their own respective villages. They must emerge from within their districts. And there mustn't be dictatorship in saying, okay, you're going to be nominated. There has to be a process in which the common man, the grassroots level man who is the most important component in an election, they should choose their candidates. So we have a process on the pipeline, which we have discussed with a lot of young leaders and people who protested, because however much I tried to unite these guys who had goal face, they all wanted to be presidents and prime ministers. You know, those sections of people. So I even offered, I have a cousin who has a political party, and offered them this party to do this election. So all of them agreed. 70 of them came and sat around the table, and they said they will do that. And then later on, after they dispersed, we couldn't round them up again. So that's a sad situation. So they are not the people we are looking for. They are not the people we are looking for. We are looking for people who are committed to governing Sri Lanka well in the future. We have the capacity to arrange workshops for future political aspirants and change the culture.
But Mr. Zoysa, do you think that, getting a bunch of people who, well, you think or someone thinks or even they themselves believe who should be the leaders of this country, maybe with good talent, maybe they have something to really offer Sri Lanka, but do you think the problem is as simple as that, to just find some people who can govern us really good and then move on?
No, it takes a process to get there. It takes a process to get there. So this, we have to depend on the warmth of these 2 years. These people rose, they proved to Sri Lanka and the world that no government can get away with abusing the people. So that was one lesson that was taught very clearly during this Aragalya. I take my hat off to them. People who turned the switch on and got a light, opened the tap and got water, and went into the fuel station and pumped fuel, were not bothered how they were ruled, as long as they had all those. So these guys, when the crunch was on, took a step, marched out, and there were millions who were behind them. It was not only the frontliners who did their job. The frontliners were backed by the strength of millions who were non-violent, who wanted a change, who just wanted a change. So having said that, we encountered a president who was the most democratic president this country ever had. Because he allowed it. In Goldface Green, he could have mobilized the army, he could have mobilized the STF and said, remove them in one day. And that would have been the end. They would have had to go. But there was violence. It can lead to a state of anarchy. But still, he allowed it and he paid the price. He was not supported, I think, and he didn't have the acumen to govern. That's what I feel.
But of course, we find ourselves in an entirely different predicament now under, well, the current regime that is governing Sri Lanka, with elections being postponed, so on and so forth. But we'll get more into that after a short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Newsline Live.
Newsfirst, Newsline.
Local government elections postponed. New election date will be announced on the 3rd of March. It is the duty of the President to hold an election, and the result would reveal the position of the President's party, says former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. What will happen to the state employees who decided to contest the election. 57 people, including IUSF convener and student monks, remanded for trespassing. Minister Susil Premajayantha loses his cool over a comment made by MP Rohini.
Newsfirst, Newsline.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsline Live. We're in discussion with Richard de Zoysa, the convener of the People's Convention for Good Governance. Mr. de Zoysa, we were speaking about good governance in this country. We started off with the word being almost taboo right now because it's been misused so much. However, we went on into assessing your plan for the country, what will be released tomorrow. You didn't give us the full details, of course, but then we'll have to wait and see what will happen tomorrow. Also, we were speaking a bit about how the Aragale came about and how people stepped up and said enough is enough. But all of this, all of these events, I know they say, it's not the destination, but the journey that counts. We're still on this journey. But the point in this journey that we are at now, does it really reflect the victories of the Aragale or of what the people demanded? Have the people really got it? Because, I mean, for the want of a better proverb, I'd say we've gone from, fallen from the frying pan to the stove. Is that what you think too? Well,
I would say that these guys who agitated and protested did not have a forward plan. They had an initial plan of getting the incumbent president out of office. But other than that, they hadn't a clue. Because they used to meet up regularly in some hastily put up hall there, and every day they couldn't form a united front.
But Mr. de Zoysa, now you're talking about forming a united front. We're in the middle of an economic crisis. You need to understand that people have to earn to live. Now, we pay the leaders that we elect. We give them luxuries beyond measure. We give them right now, we give them fuel for three vehicles, luxury vehicles, whatever, and we expect them to govern this country. So when they don't do that properly, and when people come out onto the street and demand for some form of retribution or some form of accountability at least, can you really expect them to have all of this, organizational skills and then to be united and all of that? Can you really expect that?
No, first thing is, what I meant was this, they had to be united to sustain the warmth of the initial victory. That could bring about a movement which was totally, not only they are Aragalists, a new breed of politicians. If they had played their cards correctly, they could have mustered the support of the masses.
But Mr. de Zoysa, what do you propose? Like, what should have they done? I mean,
they should have acted fast, and they should have got a political movement online.
But then still, it'll take about another 2 years for an election to be held.
Yeah, but
there's an election due now, but the government is saying like, we're not having the election. The president is saying that he doesn't know that there's an election being held. So what do they do?
He might have to face repercussions very soon. He has raised the taxes beyond tolerance, really, and making life abject. It's a hardship for even the middle income group to survive. So they are feeling the pinch. We all are feeling the pinch. As employers, we find it difficult. We don't get our payments on time.
I believe I saw a report or a statement made by Minister of Education, Susil Premajayantha, saying that parliamentarians are making a huge sacrifice by paying the payee tax.
Yeah, but that's a new thing. That's a new thing. But they have enough perks to compensate for the taxes that they pay. So the parliamentarians don't depend on their salaries, I would say, to sustain themselves, because they have so many perks. They have which they can utilize.
So much wealth. throughout the years.
Over the years, how they have done it is questionable. So the point is that they are not being brought to book. So this corruption, we all know that it exists. Now, Anwar Kumar's stack of files and things like that, is it getting anywhere? Can we prove beyond doubt that they have actually stolen money or taken commissions? These are all assumptions. But who can actually prove this and put them behind bars?
Well, Mr. D'Souza, it's obviously the Attorney General's department, the police, law enforcement in the country. They are the ones who prosecute, aren't they not?
Yeah, but they have to. Are they acting independently? They're not.
Yeah, that's another question.
That's
entirely.
another question. So
there's no ambiguity on who should prosecute or who should take steps.
That's right.
But as to if they are doing it or how well they are doing it, that's a different matter entirely.
The thing is, they have to have irrefutable proof that they have stolen. So that is the problem that they're faced with. These guys are so clever. They're politicians. So we have to find a way.
Mr. D'Souza, we're in the final few minutes of the show. So what I really want to get to at the end of all of this is, where do we go from here? And besides the lengthy plan and all that, one question that I usually ask a lot of guests, mostly politicians when they come on my show, all that we ask is, people are not free to protest. People don't have the opportunity to vote now, right? So if there is a person who is disgruntled with this administration, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say the better half of Sri Lanka, what do they do? What do you think they should do?
They have to get on street again. They have to make it more effective, and that's the only way, because the rulers
Mr. D'Souza,
are not
but
listening.
I must remind you that given the situation in the country, Section 120 of the Penal Code is being used a lot, where people are being charged with instigating the general population against the government. So I must highlight the fact that you need to take responsibility for the statements that you make on the show.
Yeah. Certainly, I will take responsibility, because how else are they to protest?
So, but then again, that defeats the point. I already said that they can't protest; they'll be arrested. So, despite the threat of arrest, you're saying,
well, silent protests. I mean, you remember the Aragalaya started with candle lights. All those, they were silent. We had to do a silent protest.
You said that we were under one of the most democratic presidents in the history of Sri Lanka, because he allowed that to happen. He allowed that to happen. But I mean, speaking by the perspective of a reasonable person, that is not allowed anymore. We saw two girls who were protesting right next to Galle, about 300, 400, 500 meters from where the Independence Day celebration was being held. And these two girls, who were just holding one or maybe two banners, were asked to leave by about 10 to 15 police officers. So what do you propose?
Well, those are things that we have to face. We have to face and overcome them, go to courts, go to human rights. There's no other recourse. There's no other recourse other than using democratic means to get over this. I will never tell them that this has to be done violently. It's not going to get you anywhere. That's flatly said, and there's no way that will be allowed in this country. So I'm fully in favor of that. There shouldn't be any violence. It has to be done democratically. It has to be done with silent persuasion. Civic groups must get together, agitate, think tanks. Now we have formed some think tanks, and we can offer expertise. We actually, at the moment, we want to tide over this thing. We can tell the government also there are certain things that you all should do differently. Not follow this path where
and these archaic policies and archaic
and drifting nowhere. They are just surviving. So they are not fooling anyone. They are not fooling anyone. Now people are, I would say, wise to the fact that they have
wiser
that they have been taken for a ride by politicians, meaning the culture of giving a bath packet, a bottle of arak and some money must stop. That must stop. At grassroots level, people must go and say, this is not the way. You must choose your leaders wisely. You mustn't get lured in by these petty cash. No? They must think of the country and choose the correct leaders to go towards prosperity.
Because
these
of course,
are theories, but you have to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere.
because at the end of the day, you even lured in by these little trinkets that they get or we get, that too ends up being our money, taxpayers' money, and now people are paying a real good lot of it. Thank you very much, Mr. Richard de Zoysa, convener of the People's Convention for Good Governance. Of course, good governance is what we all want and what we've all been asking for the longest time. However, we've only got empty promises on good governance. However, like Mr. de Zoysa, like you said, people are wiser now. People are more active and more open to and more understanding of their civic duties for the betterment of this country, given that Sri Lanka has now fallen or hit rock bottom. Well, of course, you will have your opportunity to select your leaders, to elect your leaders, and I think Mr. Richard de Zoysa would agree with me when I say that this must be done very carefully and very wisely. Thank you very much to all our viewers out there for tuning in to another edition of Newsline. Until we meet again, take care and God bless.